I know, I couldn't think of anything witty.
Call my niece.
It's been too long since I did,
I don't believe it. Hi, Scott.
Because I saw out there today.
since I used the laptop, I don't have one at home.
Yeah.
Ladder.
So, this doesn't look like it loaded in digital.
Yeah, signs are.
Did yours load the stuff? I feel
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome. And we'll start the council meeting tonight with the call to order, obviously, and the invocation. Jeff.
Let's pray. Father, we pause to thank you for this constitutional federal republic, a system where neighbors can elect neighbors to represent them. Privileged to be here. I thank you for this board. Thank you for the administration. I thank you for department heads in audience this evening. I also thank you for our visitors, representing the 15,000 plus citizens in this city. I ask now, as we look at the agenda for this evening, that we have humble hearts and sharp minds. It's in Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that. Let the minutes reflect that all council members are present in-house. City Attorney Scott Royst has joined us virtually. So, one other item on the agenda I wanted to draw your attention to. Item number 4 under old business is Ordinance 2021-0502. It's a second reading for the additional appropriation. It is also a public hearing, and it didn't get noted in your agenda, but it had been properly advertised, and Lynn has advertised our call-in or a text-in number as well. So just wanted to draw your attention that item number 4 is a public hearing. So with that, let's go to the approval of the minutes from May 3rd. Those have been presented.
I move to approve.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Cindy. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, and welcome again to all our visitors tonight. Appreciate it.
Did anyone hear beeping, or was it just me? That was me. Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought it was our alarm, but all right. Never mind.
Thanks, Dan, for fessing up.
Detention.
Dan's beeping. All
I
right.
was hearing things.
All right, Lynn, now that you've figured that out, any questions or any comments on the fund report?
No, I don't have any comments, and I don't have any questions either. If you guys do, I'll.
Any questions from the council on the fund report? All right, that's for your information. Item number 2. So the franchise fees, the Comcast fee for the, looks like the first quarter of 21, amount of $13,903.18 for your information. Okay. All right, let's move on to unfinished business. Tonight, we'll consider on second reading Ordinance 2021-0404, passed unanimously on first reading. This is a salary amendment for police salaries. Again, we'll consider it in second and final reading to increase the base patrol salary. I would ask the Wage Committee to give their final thoughts before we consider this amendment. But just wanted to make a note that the impact of raising the base patrol salary also will create a competitive increase as we look to hire new officers. And I think the Wage Committee can certainly discuss verify that our wages have not been competitive in that realm. So with that, I think we had some discussion at the last meeting, and I'd ask those from the Wage Committee if they have any comments on tonight's second reading, to go ahead.
I think probably in addition to assisting us with hiring new officers, it perhaps will also help with retention of the current officers that we have. And I think we very much want to do that because we don't want to have a great deal of turnover. We don't want to lose to other departments.
Jeff or Diane?
I have nothing more to add, what we talked about 2 weeks ago, other than I'll just once again thank everybody for their efforts leading up to this point. Good for the community. I think about the police department and the culture there, current realities. This is a step in the right direction. So, thank you.
I just might make a clarifying remark. I know it was confusing. One of our newspaper reporters asked me to explain it to him after the meeting, like what exactly it was that we were doing, and just the fact that we are raising the base patrol officers' pay by 10% does not mean that each person in the police department or each wage, I should say category, because as you know, when you look at salary ordinances, you're only looking at the maximum that someone could receive. This doesn't reflect what they might actually be receiving. And just to make it really clear that we're not raising every single salary by 10%. Police department works a lot differently than any other salary that we're used to looking at, and everything flows off of that base pay. So when that base pay is raised by 10%, that monetary amount, which in this case comes out to $200, then is what's added to each person's salary cap, all the way up to the chief. So unfortunately, Scott, you are not getting a 10% raise. It does affect him, and it does affect our officers, in the amount of $200 going forward. But that's a really important distinction to note, because it's not what we're used to. A lot of times when we talk about wages and salary, we're talking about, increasing everybody's by 3% or by 7% or, something like that. But just important to understand how this actually works and translates in the practical sense then.
Diane, thank you for articulating that. And I just didn't want to mention the comparisons that the Wage Committee saw, where there was about 10 different agencies, 5 or 6 cities of similar size, 2 larger cities, and a couple counties, all in our circle up here in northern Indiana. And that significant difference, our patrol wage was $10,000 lower than the highest one of a much smaller community. So I think those were really the important things that the Wage Committee looked at, was we had to get competitive to hire. And I think everybody's seen what's happening with wages now. I'm not sure where this is going to stop, but at the point we're at right now, the timing's good, and it's important that we get on with it and show that we are competitive, that we've got also with the wages that are being impacted up and down the ranks. There's a real career path here with not only salary, but a lot of different options, dive teams and SWAT teams and all the different opportunities that one gets in a little bit larger community. So just wanted to point out the grid that was used and where we stood. And that, to me, it was really, the important part here. So
I also might add, just as you recall the chief saying, because we've not been able to hire officers, he actually has the money in his budget to finish out this year. So we won't be asking for any additional appropriations or transfers from the general fund in order to support this increase at the present time. And then as a wage committee, when we look at, next year's wages and salaries, then we'll have to, look at supporting that for an additional year. But at this point in time, with our uncertain revenues, I think that's really important for the council to know that the money is already there in the pot, and we won't be looking for any new monies between now and January 1st.
Comments? I do want to thank the Wage Committee. They worked hard, and not just on this department, but going back as long as I've been mayor, when the Wage Committee was established, and Jennifer at HR bringing to the Wage Committee the concerns of wages that were not competitive in our local community, external wages, utilizing salary surveys from like-sized communities. And we can't give these adjustments to everybody every year. It's got to be done at the appropriate time. I wish we could do it all at once. We can't. But I will pledge that we are going to continue to look at wages for all departments and keep our wages competitive. I just feel at this point it was a critical time to make the adjustment that we needed to make. So I again want to especially appreciate the Wage Committee, whom you've heard from tonight, and Jennifer for the research that they do when they put these things together. It's not just listening to somebody saying, I want more money. They're using data, and they're using competitive local data as well as cities and towns of like size to try and keep our wages in line but competitive. Questions, comments?
For one, I'm glad that we are trying to stay competitive. We have a good police department. It's been noted a number of times that a lot of our new hires get poached after going through training, and that speaks a lot to our training system that we've got, and we can thank the chief for that. I'm just glad that we're trying to stay competitive. You get what you pay for, and I think this is a good step up.
All right.
Well, I guess with that, I would entertain, or would like to move that we accept Ordinance 2021-0404.
0405, 0404, you're right. Motion by Jack, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Josh. All right. Any further questions, comments? All right. Motion's on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Passes unanimously on second reading. Again, thank you, Jennifer, and the Wage Committee for your hard work, and unfortunately, your work's not over.
It's just started.
All right. Let's move on to item number 2, and unfinished business. This would be second reading, Ordinance 2021-0405, establishing our solid waste fee. As you recall from the last meeting, we did have a public hearing, had some robust discussion. This is actually, we presented at the meeting before, so this is really a third time it's been in front of council. First as an introduction, second as a first reading and public hearing, and now tonight on second and final reading. Again, I think it's probably most appropriate if there are any comments that the solid waste group would like to make at this point before we consider this. I think this is probably a good time to do it. Jerry, Mike, and Josh?
Well, I did get an email from a family talking about this, but I wrote a little bit of my thoughts on it and said I would challenge anyone to find a company to pick up your trash, or yard waste, large items for $8 per month, and to do as good a job as our city street department. If you can find someone to do this, I would suggest that you opt out and go hire them. I don't think there's a person in this outfit in this county that does it as well as our street department.
Thank you, Jerry. Mike or Josh? And those three made up the committee, and again, similar to the wage committee, they spent a long time on a difficult issue and really researched it, put a lot of thought into it, and here we are tonight on final reading. So,
Yeah, I'll go here. We've talked a lot about this. I think that ultimately there were really two options presented, which was stop providing the service and have all the residents contract with whomever they so choose, or continue to do the service, which again, like Jerry said, I believe is far superior than any of the other private firms as far as proactive customer service, returning calls, doubling back trips during the day if a large item is out and they need to pick it up. Things that you just won't get with non-municipality services. Or the second option is keep it in-house, provide all those services, continue to do so for probably a third or more or less of the actual cost. So I think after looking at all the data, being able to determine and establish a fee of $8 compared to 25 plus, it seems to be a pretty easy decision, and I'm really happy that we are keeping such a tremendous service in-house for our constituents.
thanks, Josh. Michael, any final comments, or?
I can't really say anything that hasn't been said before by me or these two wingmen that I have here, other than, change is hard. And this is a shift in how we're approaching how we pay for this service. I think we've done the people right in doing this. I too received an email. The people that sent it felt that this wasn't a bargain. I would take them to task on that. I emailed them and asked them to come if they wanted to speak their mind. We were more than willing to listen. But change is hard, and with the tax caps eating into our revenues, when we're dipping into our reserves, out of the gate, I didn't want to do this. They didn't want to do this. But when you analyze the problem and come up, do some critical thinking and come up with possible solutions, this, I think, is probably the best solution out there. And with your help and guidance, I think we've come up with a really a great way to attack the problem. And we're not funding the whole thing 100%. We're trying to offset the cost. That's it.
All right, thank you.
I think one thing to note too is there seems to be maybe a little mistaken assumption that all of the property taxes people pay come to the city of Warsaw. And in essence, that's not really true, because a portion goes to the schools, portions go to other entities. And so while it may seem like a lot is being paid to the city, there are actually several different pots that those taxes go to.
Well, and I think that it's really important to note that not only does that money go into different pots, right, even the money that comes to the city from the state via property tax or whatever else happens, goes into various pots within the city that have to be spent a certain way. They'll give us the amount of money that they deem that we need, and then put strings on it and say, you can't use this for streets, or you can't use this for general fund type stuff. And they shift it around in such a way, it tends to put us in a really hard position from time to time. This is one of those times where something that we were able to take out of the general fund before maybe and pay, the money's not there like it used to be, because it's not coming back, because we're keeping your property taxes low. It's kind of a double-edged sword.
All right. So again, to articulate, I heard a few things. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Multi-unit dwellings, in other words, apartment buildings of 2, 3, or 4 that house 2, 3, or 4 residential units are eligible for trash service, have been since we went to the automated. They are in this ordinance, they have the ability to opt out. Single-family homes do not have the ability to opt out, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that. I will also add that switching over to a user fee, it's going to take some time, and if this passes tonight, there will be issues. It's not going to be easy to make that conversion. I would ask for everyone's patience. We will certainly try and keep an eye on this. We've got about a month,
6 weeks.
a little over a month and a half, a little under a month and a half to do this. So keep that in mind. There are conversions that are being made right now, and there will be errors and omissions that we will have to take care of. Before I ask you to vote on this, I know there are a few faces here that it's not a public hearing, but I would welcome you, if you've got a question or a comment, to come to the microphone about this particular issue. I would certainly be willing to hear if you've got any concerns or comments. Kim, sure. I think that's you.
I can.
I haven't taken my vaccination yet. So I didn't know this was going on. I've been kind of slack at following city meetings. So I saw something on Facebook, and it got my attention because at North Point, they're 4-unit buildings, 6 buildings on a drive, street. We have never had city trash pickup out there. So I'm happy to hear we can opt out and not have an additional charge, because trash has always been included in the taxes, and yet we've never had that benefit. So is this a starting point? Are you going to take that out of the budget and make trash in the future just the cost?
The trash fee will supplement the cost to do trash. We presented to the committee, it's about $915,000 last year to do trash, recycling, yard waste, and large items.
Okay.
And going with an $8 fee will put us at about 50% of that. And that's really where we want to be, kind of a supplement, not to completely take it over. There will be,
We're never going to get that benefit out there of any kind. So that's where, and I don't know what the commercial, I doubt if you guys pick up for commercial either. So
No.
you've got multifamily and commercial that in essence are helping flip the bill on trash, but we see no benefit. So to take it the rest of the way would actually be probably the most fair thing you could do.
Did you get the email I sent you? You didn't get it?
No.
Okay, sorry.
That's all
It's
right.
never gone through.
All right, anyone else? All right, back to the council. I'd ask you to entertain action on ordinance 2021-0405, unless there's further discussion.
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'd second it.
All right, further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, let the minutes reflect. Passes unanimously. All right, item number 3, ordinance 2021-0501. This is just basically the second reading to establish a separate fund to accept American Rescue Plan Act funds as they are on the way. But it is required that the council acknowledge that, and this will not in any way, shape, or form allocate any of those funds. It just creates a home for those funds. We will be gathering more information. Department of Treasury has come out with the final rule, and there are interpretations that are being formulated as we speak. This Friday, if you have the opportunity to get on a AIM webinar, they're going to dive into this. I would ask that if you have an interest, you do that. We'll get you the information. And then once we get clarified how these funds can be spent, I will propose to our Finance Committee, of which Council President is a member, I'll just propose a draft of the buckets of money that those funds are allowed to be spent on, and I'll create some categories and put some money in those categories and take it first to the Finance Committee and have them go at it, and then ultimately that spending plan will come to the council for their approval. And you'll certainly have, Jack will be right at the front of all that. So again, we're not asking tonight for a vote to approve any funds. All we're asking for is a repository for those funds in the form of establishing the American Rescue Plan Act Fund 176. Lynn, anything to add on that?
No, you have it down. You know the plan, for the plan.
Step at a time, right?
Step at a time.
Questions?
Lynn, when we get the fund report then each month, will it show that fund then and then show as we start to spend it, what's still in it? Okay.
And just keep in mind, we're only getting 50% of the distribution, the total
Right.
distribution this year, and then we'll get 50% sometime maybe in May next year.
I haven't seen the final number, but I've been told that they're very close to what the preliminary numbers were, and that was 3.1 million for the city in 2 tranches. Half this year and half next year, just to make sure everybody understands. We're not getting 2 tranches of 3.1. We are also having some discussion with other local units as well as foundations to talk about how some of this money can be utilized for recovery from the impact of COVID in our community, which would include non-for-profits, businesses, households. So there will certainly be a lot of input as we develop our plan. And again, that'll all come to you. You'll have a chance to digest it, and
I
we'll
think
ask
that's
you.
really wise, because like we established combined community services years ago in this community to make sure we didn't duplicate funds from different sources, I think that collaboration will prevent that from happening, so that the same entity isn't going to different sources of funding in our county and, duplicating funds, but that we use them as wisely and judiciously as we can and spread that out as much as we can.
All right, any further questions? Is there a motion to approve or to take action on ordinance 2021-0502 on second and final reading?
0501.
I'll make a motion, we approve 2021-0501. Or 02. What do we-
It is 01.
Okay, 01, yeah,
But if you want to do 02 at the same time, I'm good. Sorry.
yeah.
Not yet. Okay.
No, I don't think we can get
All
away
right,
with
motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Cindy. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, passes unanimously on second reading. Item number 4, also in old business, is ordinance 2021-0502. This is a second reading. This is the public hearing that I talked about earlier. This is an additional appropriation from general funds. You all had an opportunity to see that and discuss that last week. The $54,525 is being utilized for COVID response from our CARES Act funds from last year. The $36,000 is council utilities, and the $200,000 is for signals for Lake and Indiana Street this year. So, again, I'll turn it over to the council. We've walked through this and approved it. I think we had one abstention last meeting, 6 to 0 to 1. So, questions or comments?
I have a question on the location of the lights. You say Lake and Indiana Street. Is that on the intersection at Center Street?
Center, right.
Okay. And when Mr. Beeler was the superintendent of the street department, he had talked to us about being able to control those lights from a central station or perhaps from his office or the...
Dustin, you want to address that, please? Dustin's here. I would rather let him speak to that.
Yes, we can control them from, there is a program that we can control everything through there. This was basically, last year, we had budgeted this $200,000 was in the budget for the traffic signals. With COVID and everything, the traffic signal poles were an 18-month out backup. The company has since, called up, and so this is just pulling that money back out that we did not spend last year to finish the project. So, but yes, to answer your question, there is preemption as to where we can control and sync all those lights together. They'll be just like the one right here at Center in Buffalo.
And is that for emergency vehicles, or is it to sync with the trains, or?
There is the ability to sync them with the emergency vehicles, as long as we've looked into that. Some of the newer fire trucks and stuff do have the preemption capabilities. Some of the older ones would have to be updated.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
So is this is for 2 intersections then? Okay.
Yes, so that'll be Center and Lake Street and Center and Indiana Street as well. We actually have a pre-construction meeting coming up May 25th to get started. The poles should be available about the end of June. June 24th is relatively where the last update we got.
Has there already been a contract awarded to that?
That is correct, yes.
You can get,
Yes, yeah.
you can get both those intersections done for that 200,000?
No, we had, it was a
Yeah,
joint
so
between
it's
both years.
400,000 total.
Right. I think the actual bid contract that was awarded Board of Works was like 443,000 and some change for the 2 intersections.
So, no, we'll have to open the public hearing for this. As we've done in the past, we obviously have an open council here. We will give those that are viewing tonight the opportunity to text any comments, 574-377-0287. That's 377-0287. So we'll keep the phone lines open for text comments for about 3 minutes. And if there are anyone here wishing to speak on behalf of the additional appropriation, you're invited to the front. Anyone wishing to speak in support of or on behalf of the appropriation? Okay, is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the petition? Anyone from the public wishing to speak against the petition? Okay, I will we'll play the Jeopardy music for 2 minutes, and then we'll come back. So, and we'll await any text comments from the public. Lynn, while we're waiting, could you explain the utility costs that are being the 36,000?
It's for wastewater bills from each building that the city has wastewater attached to it. So it wasn't in the budget. So rather than splitting out between every department, we thought it'd be easier, I thought it'd be easier just to put it in the general fund so the council could just pay for that billing every month.
So we are required to bill our departments waste and stormwater fees like we charge the public. And rather than sending bills out to each one, we've centralized that. And we are starting now this year, so we'll have to put that in the budget for next year. But we needed an additional appropriation to cover those fees this year. All right, we got about 30 seconds. We'll wait. If there are, again, any text comments, right now I see none.
Have the right phone there? No?
I do indeed. There are a few advertisements on here, but no text messages regarding the additional appropriation. All right, so it's been 3 minutes, and I will now close the public hearing portion of the second reading, and throw it back to the council for their discussion and action.
So I have another question. The 200,000 additional is he mentioned 430,000, so let's say 230,000. Is that unencumbered money sitting, waiting to be used for these projects?
Yes.
Okay.
So I asked Dustin when it didn't look like we were going to be able to get the materials this year. I asked him to do a line one cut last year.
Right.
And then when we found out that they were available, this is kind of moonwalking a little bit and going backwards. So, but with the availability of it, to do them both at once, you save on mobilization costs, and there's definitely a savings to get them done, both done.
Okay.
Anything else to add on that, Dustin?
Just that the one here at Center in Buffalo, I want to say right around 350,000 to do one. So we get 442,000 to do two of them. So it is a lot of market to do both of them.
All right. Council, what's your plan?
I move to approve 2021-0502.
All right, motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion or comments? If not, we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Stay.
And one abstention. All right,
Did you abstain or vote no, Jerry?
Yeah,
abstained.
stay.
Okay.
All right. All right, let's move on to new business. Planning Resolution 2021-0503. Jeremy, you're going to present. This is essentially has to do with the Northern TIF and the Tech Park, the new company that's taking over from Winona PVD, which would be Cross PVD.
Yes, cross PVD coating and treating are They have a long name. But basically what you're approving is a plan amendment to the Northern TIF, and that plan amendment is to include them as a taxpayer. This has went before the Redevelopment Commission, who approved their resolution at the beginning of the month. It went to the Plan Commission last week, who approved their resolution, approving the resolution of the Redevelopment Commission. And now you're tasked with approving the resolution of the Plan Commission. This will go back to the Redevelopment Commission for a final approval at their upcoming meeting in June. Obviously, the intent here is to capture whatever increment of personal property will remain from that Winona PVD equipment that was purchased during foreclosure, whatever you want to call it. But when the company went out, the bank auctioned off that equipment, and this company has purchased it and plans to re-energize it in the original Winona PVD facility, and we'd like to capture whatever increment would come off of that to pay for those existing bonds.
Questions? So this has been, Jeremy, this has been to the Plan Commission, correct?
Yes.
And Redevelopment Commission as well?
Yep.
So the flow is through the council, and then is it back to redevelopment?
Back
for
to
final?
redevelopment for final approval.
Okay. So I know, Mike, you've been involved in redevelopment, Diane Plan, and Jeff.
Redevelopment
And Plan, and that's right. So any comments?
It was a unanimous approval from Plan.
Okay.
Once we understood it.
It's a bit convoluted.
Well, it's all good.
Yes, yeah.
It's all good. So I would make a motion to approve 2020-10501.
And I'll second that.
That would be 2021-05-03.
Oh, there's so many pages here. 03, pardon me.
It's all right, I already did it once. All right, motion's been made by Mike. Is there a second?
I seconded it already.
Diane seconded. All right, any further discussion?
Jeremy, so when, I'm assuming they'll apply for a tax abatement, will their tax abatement just write out what Winona PVDs would have been, or do they get to start with a whole new set of years?
Winona PV did not have a tax abatement,
Okay,
and they will not be able to apply for a tax abatement because the equipment's already in place.
okay.
It has to be new equipment. So if they were to add new equipment, then they certainly could come back to the council and apply for that to be abated. What we're attempting to capture is the existing equipment that was owned and operated by Winona PVD. It was still there, never removed, that they're going to basically re-energize, bring back to life, more or less.
Jeremy, they'd mentioned too the number of jobs they were going to try and bring back. I think it was a pretty reasonable number.
Yeah, I think it was around over 50. So yeah, they will be bringing a reasonable number of jobs back to it, and I imagine they will be before us for some incentives. They have not. We've had very limited conversations on what that might be at this point, but it won't be or cannot be a tax abatement on the existing building because it already exists. It could potentially be a vacant building deduction, but as you know, those are only 3 years. It can't be a tax abatement on the equipment because it already exists. So we'll have to talk to them and present something to you at some point in time if they were to request it.
Questions?
So basically, this is a new company,
Yes.
New owners.
new owners of what was once Winona PVD.
I mean, honestly, no. They just bought the equipment.
They just bought the
This is a new
equipment.
company that bought equipment that was for auction that Winona PVD.
And they plan
that the
on-
bank had taken possession of from Winona
Oh,
PVD.
okay. And they plan on opening up the same sort of business, but
Probably. Well, same premise, but it won't be primarily wheels, which is what Winona PVD was doing. It will be this coating method on various products that may include wheels, but as you know, Winona PVD primarily did only wheels.
so they're
they will attempt
casting
to
their net much farther.
diversify who they're providing services to, yeah.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thanks, Jeremy. All right, let's move on to some CF1 tax abatement requests. We'll start and just go down the line. Instrumental machine. This is the second year of their abatement. Jeremy, you want to go through that?
Yeah, so they were granted tax abatement not too long ago, 2019, right after we had annexed in the airport industrial park. They had estimated around 1.1 million, I see their typo there, 1.1 million in equipment and personal property improvements. They've hired 7 additional employees since 2019, and they are in their second year of abatement. I'd recommend continuing that tax abatement. Do you want to do all of them, or you want to take them one at a time?
Let's go one at a time. I think that's fair. Questions on instrumental machine and development, IMD? Is there a motion to approve the CF1?
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, second one would be Cemetery Medical / Tecomet.
Yeah, so Cemetery Medical had some tax abatements back in 2005. Tecsmo purchased that company, 3 or 4 years ago now. They had a 10-year tax abatement for real and personal property. Spent around $10.7 million in personal and real improvements. They had estimated adding 107 additional jobs and currently have not added any new employees since filing in 2015. This is their 6th year of abatement. They have certainly spent the money in personal and real property improvements, so I would recommend continuing this tax abatement as well.
Questions? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Move to approve. Jerry, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Cindy. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. This next one, Tecsmo Precision Castings, I think this is one we had inherited from the county when we annexed out there, and they're in their 5th year.
Yeah, so they're in their 5th year. Estimate is around $4.7 million in real and personal property improvements. They spent 2.8 in real property, 2.4 in personal, added 17 additional employees since 2016. So I would, although you didn't approve the original tax abatement, I would recommend we continue that tax abatement that was granted to them by the county.
Questions? All right, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Cindy, is there a second?
Second.
All right, Josh, any further discussions? Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, and the last one, Wishbone Medical. This is a 3-year vacant building. I think this is their 1st year.
Yeah, so this was approved last year by you, but in 2020, they had come and requested to purchase a vacant building that had been vacant for over 3 years and estimated adding some additional improvements to it. So far, they have spent $98,000. They just occupied it, I think, in October of 2020. So I imagine there will still be some work that they'll be doing, but they estimated around $200,000. So far, they've spent around $98,000, and it's only a 3-year abatement since it is a vacant building. So I would recommend we continue that tax abatement as well.
How many year abatement did you say, Jeremy?
It's just 3.
3.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, is there a motion to approve?
Also.
Jerry? Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Diane. Further questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Item number 3, this is a transfer request, resolution 2021-05-01. This is going from a police insurance into repairs and maintenance. Chief, you want to address this?
Thank you. Yeah, so the police department came across a couple of different issues, two of which pertain to our sewer system. Excuse me. As unbeknownst to us, we had issues with the underneath the police department. The sewer lines are building, obviously very, very old. We purchased it, and I think the city did in roughly 2000, remodeled 2002. We moved in. Unbeknownst, obviously, to the city, at that time, the technology wasn't there to be able to actually view those lines. But we've had we've had problems with the sewer lines over the course of the last several years. We'd get those flushed out. The city would help us, but it got to be the point where it's very routine. The lines were breaking down. We knew this. We ran cameras inside and determined that those lines needed to be lined with the latest technology. So we were able to, with the assistance of James Emmons, basically use weed, and we're able to reline approximately 350 feet underneath the police department's main building. And it appears to be successful. I think we're in the final stages right now. So we had to move forward with it as basically an emergency because we ended up having additional issues. In addition to that, we ended up having a problem in our police garage with basically a non-functioning sewer line, and it had to be rerouted. We used a company called Core, and that figure was also included into this transfer. So I think with weed, our estimated amounts could be around $51,000. And again, that's for the main building. For the police garage, it's going to be approximately $5,200 from Core Mechanical Services. And there's some other additional smaller fees that were associated with those were the two large bills. In addition to those sewer issues, we also had to make a purchase for the roof material. As you're aware, that we're in the process of replacing the multi-bay garage roof at the police department. The portion of that that's paid by labor, I think it's roughly $97,000, was used out of a different appropriation. However, the material needed to come from the police department's budget, and we just didn't anticipate it being as much as it was. It ended up being $58,224, so a portion of that. So the total of those three, and pushing back the police department's repairs and maintenance budget, set us back to the point where, based upon our calculations, we're going to need to replenish $75,000, and that's the request, is to transfer $75,000 from, I believe, medical insurance into the repairs and maintenance appropriation.
Questions?
Scott, I assume that this is insurance that's not being used right now, but it won't affect having insurance money for new hires.
Correct. And I did confer with the clerk's office and Kelly Geiger, give me those numbers, so I will hold her to the, no. We were both in agreement with the figures that we had.
I double checked.
And Lynn double checked.
So yeah, they did similarly what we did to our public ways. They did the spin cast and firmed those back up, and I know it was basically an emergency. It was necessary.
Otherwise, we would have had to actually have literally tore up all the concrete, 350 feet of concrete.
I drove by the police department at about 5:30. I forget when it was, and I don't like to bother the chief after hours. I called him on a Friday night. I bet you wonder, what does Jeff want? And it was because of all the trucks that were there. I could not believe the amount of equipment that they had there at the police department on, I think it was Friday evening. So they've done a lot of work. At least it looked like it. They had a lot of trucks parked out there.
Yes, so they did do a lot of work. There's certainly a lot to it, and it's pretty neat technology, and we were aware of it, many years ago, but for it to be able to do the smaller lines is pretty impressive.
All right, so again, this transfer resolution 2021-0501, any further comments or questions or concerns? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to act on resolution 2021-0501?
I would move to approve Resolution 2021-0501.
Cindy, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Jerry. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Scott, appreciate it. All right, any other matters come before the council tonight?
Question, do we have any update on when they are going to put the sensors in the roadway for the traffic lights?
I believe the asphalt is all down, and I believe all the sensors are in the ground. There are still some timing issues. I think I know what you're referring to.
Yes. It's taken me as long as 14 minutes to come from Park and Center downtown. It seemed, there's a lot of rumble right now. People are, I think it's kind of hurting business in general. People are boycotting the downtown area.
Well, I know, Jeremy, you've been in touch with NDOT. We are at their mercy. We are doing everything we can. The design, the cost, the implementation has all been out of our hands, basically the railroad and NDOT. And I know, Jeremy, you've been on the phone with the engineer.
Yeah, I've talked to them a few times. They initially told me they were still working through timing issues. The last conversation I had was through an email with them, sharing them same concerns that you're sharing. Talked to them about some things I think they need to look at, and they basically sent me a long email back, very long email, which I'll share with you, back saying they're not going to do anything until all the project's done. Now, that's not to say we can't continue, and I think I'll have a conversation with Joe to see what our next steps are. I forwarded that email to him, I think, last week. We haven't had a chance to sit down and discuss our next steps, but I would agree with you and probably a lot of the community that has reached out to us that the timing is not working. There's some things that they need to work on. I'm sure they know that. The sooner the better for us. I don't know what the holdup on their end is. I feel like all the equipment is there. I know I've seen it. I know I've heard from other people. The gate's down, train's going through, and the light's green. That is not supposed to be happening. So
Yeah.
I know it's not working the way it was intended to, and we'll continue to try to work with NDOT to make it work the way we think it should. But it isn't our project. We don't have any direct control over it, obviously, and we're certainly sharing our frustrations with them as well as what the community is sharing with us. So.
I know it's not easy, and it just, I think everyone thinks it's something the city council and the mayor and everything can do something about, and we all know that we really can't do anything about it.
Yeah, we've made some phone calls. I've had at least 2 phone conversations, an email conversation, which I'll share the email that I received from them with the council so that you can see the conversation. It was very long. It had a lot of different technical terms in it. So I think they are trying to work it out. I hope that they put a little bit more urgency in it than maybe what they are. I think they're wanting all of 15 to be done before they mess with the timing, which from our end, we'd rather not. I'd rather fix the timing now. Like you said, I've been there too. I've sat through 5 traffic signals and wonder what's going on here. So it's something that needs to be fixed, and we'll continue to try to work with them to fix it.
Thank you.
My frustration too has been, and I know it's a construction project, but any pressure you can put on them with just maintaining the tracks too. You talk timing, Main Street looks like bombing runs over there. It's really bad. And I know it's a construction project, but that doesn't help as people are trying to get through. You've got to really be careful. So
No,
patience
I agree.
is a virtue, I
agree.
guess.
And this has been a very long project, right?
Yeah.
It was supposed to be done last year, and now here we are.
Right.
And it's not even really close to being done,
Right.
sadly.
As I've reminded everyone, the genesis of this project was 2013. We were awarded our first tranche of money for this project in 2013.
Wow.
They ran into a number of railroad issues.
Yeah.
The last conversation I had with them a week ago, they did call and tell me they were wanting to change the design, and I told them we weren't going to accept the change in the design because everybody had looked at it. The community expects it to be what we'd talked about. Apparently, the railroad's claiming that they've never seen the plans, and so it's going to hold up the project even longer. So if you think it's been a while now, it could be another 6 months.
I know it's a concern. We have all worked hard with NDOT, with the railroad. Jeremy has bent over backwards. There's not an easy fix till they, like they said, get the entire project done, and there is still asphalting to be done.
Yeah, there's still lots of asphalt that needs to be laid. They need to do the whole other side of Hickory Street that they haven't done. Like I said, they were wanting to basically curb it off and not have any parking. There's a number of houses over there that don't have any parking. This is why we came up with the plan we'd come up with. So my last conversation with them is we're sticking to the plan that we all agreed on, figure out how to work with the railroad to get it done. So that's where we're kind of at.
Kim?
Just a quick question. What about the Bronson Street Railroad crossing? Is there any pressure put on? I'm telling you.
Yes. I went, I met with Cf1 We took a trail down through there. They've got a plan to rehabilitate several of those crossings, that being one of them. Unfortunately, it's not till 2022. They are going to rehabilitate the Detroit Street crossing. Wish they could have done that while we were doing all the asphalting, but again, we're at their mercy. So the Detroit Street crossing will be repaired at some point. But there are several crossings starting east of town coming this way that they acknowledge need to be redone, but they don't have the money to do it till next year.
Yeah, to NDOT's defense, and for if you aren't aware, there are certain things that NDOT can and can't do, and the railroad controls that kind of that track paving area. It's not something NDOT has any control over, so that further complicates projects like this. So they can pave 15, but they can't pave those tracked areas. Those are specific paving contractors that specifically work for the railroad, and that's all they do. So it's a very complicated process.
Yeah, if you go over to Detroit Street now, you can see where the state stopped, and the approach and then the track are undone. Very frustrating. Very frustrating.
But if you've seen what happened in Iowa, you'll understand why they're very picky about those tracks. So,
Thanks for the update.
thank you all.
Well, it's Poppy Day. I'll just, American Legion came over and they're selling their poppies. If you see them buy a poppy, they fund their veterans retirement home with that. Got a lesson today from them on that, and it's a marvelous project that they work hard on. So if you have the opportunity to buy a poppy, please do so.
Are they gonna have their memorial services out there at Oakwood this year, like they normally used to have? Have you heard?
I can't answer that. I'll find out, Jerry.
Okay.
I hope so.
Well, I always saw you out there, so.
Yep. Yep, I used to take Dad out there, so
Yep.
it's a great morning. Thanks for asking. I'll look into that. Anyone else? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Thank you. Did any of you have any difficulty with? Yours was okay. Jack, that one didn't start up.
Yeah, got it.
Cindy, was yours okay?
Yes, pretty much. I couldn't go back between the pages.
have to
Somehow it wouldn't let me do that, but
Okay.
I got it. Other than that. it was
Josh,
all
did
right.
you use yours? Was that all right? Mike, did you use yours?
I did, no glitches.
So these were computers that we purchased in anticipation